Hey everyone, my name's Kyle Wallgren, and this is our second episode of Our Texas Town. Today, our guest is Carla Davis. She's the owner of Davis Porch and Patio, a local business that sells pool furniture, located right here in Weatherford. I've been to it. It's a beautiful store. They have beautiful equipment for your pool and backyard. Carla, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Carla, what year did you guys start your company?
We started building our own outdoor Adirondack chairs probably in 2021, 2022. We designed an Adirondack chair made out of HDPE or poly because it withstands weather and a lot of elements in the Texas area. And then decided to actually open a brick and mortar store in Weatherford in February of 2023.
So you do the manufacturing of some of your products and
Yes.
also do retail.
Correct.
What made you decide to jump into manufacturing of all places?
Well, I have always had a love for anything outdoors. I love, swimming, fishing, going to the beach, anything, and also, decorating, helping friends redesign their outdoor spaces or indoor, and also just kind of come to love Adirondack chairs. I just like the way that they look. I think that they're just kind of a classic look for outdoor spaces, whether it's around a fire pit or a pool or at the beach, at the lake. And essentially came a little bit obsessed with those and decided to look into designing an Adirondack chair and how to manufacture that out of poly or HDPE.
Now, what is an Adirondack chair?
An Adirondack chair, that's one of the hardest words, I think, for anyone to say.
I think so.
It's the chairs that you see that are just a little bit leaned back and a little bit lower. You see them a lot around fire pits, lining, docks at the lake, boat docks, or on the beach. It's just a style of chair. I think you see it a lot up in the Northeast area. They have a lot of those in that area. It's just a style of outdoor chair.
Now, I've been in the store. You guys sell more than just those.
Correct. Yes.
What made you transition into brick and mortar? Because that comes with a whole lot of more overhead. It comes with a whole lot more sourcing.
Yes, you are correct. It does. We learned pretty quickly, even though we had some designed and we started selling the chairs, that people want to see, touch, feel, sit in it, see what the quality is. And I knew that in order to be successful and to grow the business, we were going to have to get in front of people. And it's very difficult going to markets and different trade shows. Those things are heavy. They're like 48 pounds a piece. And so it's hard to carry those around. And then also wanted to expand into other parts of outdoor living because not everyone wants Adirondack chairs, or they want more than Adirondack chairs for their backyards and patios and pools. So a space came open in Weatherford, a building was available. So we decided to get into that building, remodel it, use something old and make it something new, and get in front of the customers so they could come into the store and actually see it in person. And, I knew that the Parker County area would be on board with having someone local that actually manufactures. And they've really been impressed with that we're actually doing it there in our warehouse.
What was the number one thing you've learned from opening a new business? I get asked all the time, what does it take to start a business? And I'm not really good at explaining it. I just say start and, you'll figure it out. But what was the biggest challenge opening a storefront in Weatherford?
I think it is hard to get for people to find you, honestly. We have people still, we're in our, going into our third year, and every day we post on social media. We do all types of ads. We do as much as we possibly can to get the word out, and word of mouth, thankfully, from referrals. But not everyone's on the north side of Weatherford, So it's hard to get the word out that you exist when you're a new business. We tried to do some pre-work on that, but we still have people come in every day that said, I didn't even know you were here, people that live in the area. So that's a big thing to be found, because there's not another store like this in Parker County, and really not much west of Weatherford. We have people from Abilene, Midland, Ranger, places west of Weatherford. And so, a lot of people just are used to going to Fort Worth or Dallas for this type of furniture and things like that. So.
Right. When, picking a storefront, obviously you identified that it's hard to get the word out.
Hmm.
How much research did you put into picking your location prior to doing that? Why did you pick that location? You got to renovate it. You said you liked bringing old into new,
Hmm.
and that side of town is definitely the older side of town. But
Yes, it is the older
um,
side of town. You know, it honestly was just kind of a perfect situation. I had been looking around. I hadn't really pinpointed exactly where I thought it would be. It was just kind of in my mind, like, we need to do this. And the building where we are now at 501 North Main was available, and that was on my route back and forth to work, where I was working at the hospital in Fort Worth at that time. So I saw that it was available and it looked like the perfect spot. It's right on Main Street.
mhm.
It's close to downtown. Um, it has a front area that could easily be remodeled and serve as a showroom, and then there's a warehouse in the back. So just the way it was set up initially, and the price point was good. It wasn't really being utilized at the time. And it just became a situation where I thought it would be neat to renovate that building, because I've seen it be a lot of different businesses in my lifetime. And it just needed a little bit of love to make it come back to life again. So it really wasn't planned, I wouldn't say. I knew I wanted to be in the Weatherford area. It was just more or less what was available at that time.
You said you grew up in Poolville, Parker County.
Yes.
Um, and that is a main drag or a main road coming into
Mhm.
town. If you're coming in that direction, did keeping it here locally play into you growing up in this area? What made you think that Weatherford was going to be a great spot? You're looking at people now. My wife's researching starting a business right now
Yes.
in town. I would want to lean more to the Willow Park, Hudson Oaks area, but
Mhm.
she's set in stone on being in Weatherford.
There's just something about the feeling of Weatherford. Willow Park is close and it feels like it's still part of Weatherford. So does Hudson Oaks. To people like me that have grown up here, it's just kind of, it's like Weatherford has branched out.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something about the Weatherford area that still has that kind of old town home country feeling that just feels different. A lot of people come into Weatherford. There's so many more people now in Weatherford and Parker County than there's ever been. And
Right.
since I've grown up, there's so many new businesses, lots of new houses. But I like the feel of Weatherford. I just think it's a great place to be. I like the people there, and I just wanted to stay in that area for that reason.
That makes a lot of sense. You started your company in 2023 post COVID.
Hmm.
Did you guys see that initial influx when you started? Because I know there was hundreds of pools being built during COVID. We had nothing else we could do.
Correct. Yes.
So you either laid in your pool, went to the lake, found a
Yeah.
golf course, and that was all we had to do.
Right. Yes, I could probably blame COVID for part of the reason why this came to my mind to do this business, is because, we had a little bit more downtime sitting in the backyard thinking about things, versus you couldn't go places back in
Mhm.
2020, 2021. So, yes, when we opened the business, I will say that I was pleasantly surprised, but very surprised at how quickly the business took off. I thought it would be a little bit more of a slow growth, but as you said, so many people had started building pools and outdoor spaces and really staying in those areas because of COVID. And so we took off pretty quickly when we opened in February of 2023. I saw a lot more people coming through the doors than I expected in the beginning.
Now, and this was my initial. So we never planned building our pool. It was just like, hey, it's COVID. We need a pool.
Need something to do.
We need something to do. So we built a pool, and then found out how expensive it is to accessorize a pool.
It is.
Now, obviously we're in Texas. It's 100 and some degrees in the summer. This stuff's got to last that Texas heat. So I start to understand that.
Yes.
But what are some of the things that people overlook when planning their backyard that you could maybe give some advice on?
I think their use of space, what do you want to do in those areas? A lot of times people come into the store and they want to fill the spaces with certain things, but they're not thinking about how they're going to use it. And also just how much space you have. A lot of people build large outdoor living areas. And then when it comes to filling those spaces, like you said, you really want to think about how you're going to use it, but the quality of what you're going to put in those spaces, because we do live in Texas, and almost every area is going to have some type of harsh weather that's going to be hard on outdoor furniture and outdoor living pieces. So you want to keep in mind, what are you going to do in that space? Who's going to be using that space? How many people are you trying to entertain or seat, or, for eating, shade, because it's very hot here. And, furniture that doesn't have warranties, you want to be very careful.
Yeah, I can show you a whole bunch of it.
It's hard because, and that's something I think that's kind of new for this area, for people that have never been around outdoor furniture. And I think it was a shock for people when they first came into the store, because, we're not a big box store. We do try to source out products that are warranted and have been, in stores for years. They've been in business for years. The manufacturers are well known. They're well made. They stand behind their warranties, because weather can be harsh and UV rays are the worst.
And the wind in Parker County.
And the wind in Parker County is hard. Yeah, we've had people come in that their furniture's in the pool and they've had to get new furniture. But so I think you just need to think about, I know it's an investment. It's why they've changed the name. Pretty much you don't hear patio furniture anymore. It's outdoor living, because you have furniture that looks just like what you have in your home. Literally, some of it could be furniture for in your home. I would put it in my home, some of the pieces, because it looks beautiful, but you want to put it outside and have it last. So that's what you're thinking about. So most people don't want just a folding chair to go outside to sit in like we used to have back in the day. You want a sectional, you want a recliner, you want a swivel rocker, glider, a huge dining table that maybe extends. That type of stuff has to be well made to withstand the weather and the elements.
No, and if I could do it again, if I redid my backyard, I would definitely take a different approach. A lot of people that don't do the research, you pay on average around 130,000, 150,000 for a pool that will facilitate a family of 4.
Right.
If you want to slide or, something of that nature, but then all of a sudden you get into putting furniture around that pool, and, just for 2 pool loungers, you're anywhere, and I haven't checked prices in a long time, so excuse me if I'm way off, but you're anywhere from $700 to $2,000 a chair.
Correct.
Just to put them in your pool.
Yes.
But if you go that cheaper route, you find them in your pool every time there's a storm. So
correct. Or you have to replace them. And that's, it's funny. That's what I've heard of several customers say. They'll come into the store and their words are almost exact, across the people that come in. I'm tired of replacing my furniture every 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of finding my cushions in the, field. I'm tired of my cushions, becoming flat, or the fabric is fading, or the finish is, peeling off, things like that. Because it's, even if you go and buy furniture that maybe doesn't have quite the warranty, or it's not as expensive, they'll last. They look pretty. They're just not going to last in this weather, and they're not made to last.
Right.
The companies that we try and strive to stock, they're the companies that we have customers come in, and that, we had this a couple of weeks ago. I've had this furniture for 20 years. I need new cushions. And that's what we want. We want you to get sick of looking at your cushions, or your cushions to wear out, but you still have good frames, and we can just help you with that.
Right.
So,
well, I know that my wife has replaced our pool umbrellas about 10 times. And finally the conversation is like, when do you think you want to upgrade this to quality furniture? Because we've already paid for it 4 times with the amount of times you bought this.
Right.
Stuff.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people overlook that. When I went into your store right away, I noticed everything was heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was light. And originally we're like, oh, this is too heavy. But now after pulling my pool loungers out of the pool about 25 times, I'm like, I wish this was heavier stuff. But your guys' stuff is the greatest quality. It's, it's right there on Main. You can see it. Your showroom's beautiful.
Thank you.
What's one of the pieces that you guys have brought in for this summer season that you're most excited about?
Oh gosh, we have a lot. We had a lot of requests for large dining tables. People want to have, they're having family gatherings outside, and they want an option to seat a lot of people. And so we found an extension table made by Lane Venture. It's a really beautiful piece. It's one of our premium brands, but it's very long and it can seat, let's see, we are at 10 people. You could probably scooch up another couple of chairs and end up with 12. But an extension table is one where the leaves are built inside.
Okay.
So you can take it down to a smaller size, but then extend it. And I didn't do my homework, but I believe it's up to 136 inches long. So you can have that extra space, but if you need to close it down when you're not using it because you don't have as many people there, you can do that as well. So that was a really beautiful piece. And the top is made out of a material that you can just run your fingers across it, try to scratch it, and it doesn't scratch. So they're getting better and better at building and making and manufacturing things that don't scratch, don't chip, that can withstand having pets and kids and outdoor elements. And one other thing that we are excited about this year is a lot of people in Parker County love the look of leather. They love that Western look. And we found some outdoor, it's not real leather, it's faux, but it looks like the real thing. Same thing. It's cool to the touch. You can sit in it. You don't have to worry about it. It doesn't scratch. We have a seat, outfitted in that leather look in the showroom that you can come in and just take your fingernail and run it across that piece. So if your dogs jump up on it, you don't have to worry about it scratching it. And we have that in all different colors. So that's been popular as well.
Well, that's awesome. I know that, when all the things that we've purchased personally for my family and my life, the summer stuff that we spend with our kids has been our best investment. We spend a lot of time at our pool. We have a boat that we like to go to the lake. And when you run the numbers on what I paid for the boat, insurance and everything, it doesn't make sense to keep it. Right. But for those moments, you look and watch your kid around water and your pool in your backyard. And I don't think you can put a price on how much fun your kids really have in your backyard when it's equipped with the right accessories.
Yes. And you and your family and you being able to be out there and enjoy it as well when you're watching your family.
Yeah.
And there's so many things to do in the backyard and people have so many areas, like one part's for cooking and one's for dining. One's just for lounging, maybe around the fire pit, watching the pool, watching television. So we try to take that into consideration when we're talking with people about their outdoor space. Put things out there that's going to work for your life.
Right.
If we have a couple come in and it's just them, they're empty nesters, we try to make sure, we want to make sure you have 2 chairs that you want to sit in that are comfortable in an area that you like to be, whether it's watching the sunset or where you can turn around and watch television or be by your fireplace. So you're right. But what you put out there and how you do it makes a difference. It's funny. We've had customers come in looking for a dining table, for example, and we talk about the space and we talk about how often they eat outside and how many people they're trying to seat. And we've had people say, well, we really don't eat outside that often. And so I say, well, do you really want a dining table? Is that what you're looking for? Or you just want the look? Sometimes people just want to fill the space and they want the look, and that's fine. I just want to make sure they're getting what they want out of what they're spending and their investment so that they can use it for what they're doing. So
no, I totally understand that. And I think a lot of people, when the one thing I did do is research is ask my friend group, like, hey, how often do you use your pool? What does it take to keep it clean and all that stuff? And like some of my older friends, I'm like, why do you even have a pool? You don't have any kids at home. And they're like, well, when the grandkids come over, so a lot of people prepare for those single moments that can just bring so much joy into your life, but ease of use and how you get to operate within that use. Are you having to fix the chair while you're trying to swim in the pool?
Exactly.
All that stuff's important. What's, if you were to say the best part about building your business in Weatherford to date, what have you enjoyed the most?
I would say meeting new people, not just other businesses. I've enjoyed meeting other businesses in the area, small businesses, people that are local, but also the new customers. Our customers, a lot of them have become friends. They come into the store just to stop and say hello. We had a little bit of a different business model in that we don't just have patio furniture, as you've probably seen. We have a lot of knickknacks and home decor, wind chimes, different spices and seasonings, just floral plants, things that people can just come back in to shop for, not just come in, shop for furniture, and then we don't ever see them again. We like to see them over and over. So I've enjoyed meeting new people and becoming friends with and getting to know other people in the area, because we have a lot of new people. I grew up here, so I know a lot of people in the area, but I've met a lot of new people too that are new to Weatherford. And it's always interesting to hear their stories and where they're from.
And I think that's super, super important. Like I said before we started, I moved to the United States 8 or 9 years ago now, and I really knew nobody. We stayed here because my wife grew up in Stephenville.
Oh, wow.
So she knew people, but I knew nobody.
Right.
And when she decided that she wanted to open a business, I was like, I want to get to know everybody in town. And that was part of the
Yes.
reason why I wanted to do this podcast. It
Right.
gave me an opportunity to talk and visit with business owners in
Right.
town, hopefully bring some value to what your guys' business is through the podcast, get more eyes on what you guys are doing, but learn about what to do in Weatherford, what
Mm-hmm.
not to do in Weatherford,
Yeah.
and meet people. And that's been so valuable in order to grow a business. And I think a lot of people overlook that. But you said something that was very interesting, and I think a lot of business owners uh, kind of get scared. And what you said is you brought in more products, so you had more repeat
Mm-hmm.
business.
Yes.
A lot of people get in the mindset that this is what we're going to do, and they don't pay attention to what they really are. And
Mm-hmm.
my core business is software, and I always tell my customers, your idea of what it is today is not going to be the company
Right.
of what you have in 5 years.
Yes.
If you listen to your customer, how important do you think that has been in the success of your company growing, and especially in today's economy?
Yeah, it's been a little bit difficult. I think it's very important to listen to your customers. We came into it thinking we're going to only have, this type of furniture. You have an idea, like you said,
You
of
were a
what you're going to
manufacturer to
do.
start.
Yeah, we're manufacturing this and then going out and also sourcing other types of furniture. But it's what I see and what I like. But I'm also listening to my customers, because we've had customers come in for the last couple of years think I didn't plan on carrying planters and pots for outdoors, maybe smaller versions and a few, but not a lot. But we had several customers come in looking for pots and planters. And I thought, well, they'll just go to Home Depot or they'll go, but I listened to them. And so we brought those in. And so we've had customers coming in and buying, so you have to listen to the customer, not only for things like that, but just also the types of furniture they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
What are they wanting for their outdoor spaces? Because a lot of times they're very specific when they come in about what they're looking for. So I try to keep that in my mind as to when I'm shopping, every summer we start looking at next year's inventory.
Right.
So I listen to what's going on this year to plan for next year to try to bring in based off of what people want the most in this area, which is heavy furniture because it's windy.
It's heavy furniture. I promise you. You saw that big swing in our patio.
Yes.
When you were coming in. I was like, this is heavy enough. I'll never pull it out of the pool. Well, I've pulled it out of the pool,
Oh,
and
my
it's
goodness.
just heavy enough to fall, or just light enough to fall in the pool,
But hard to
heavy
get
enough
out.
to get out.
It's hard.
So, when we do it again, I'm definitely going to go heavier for sure.
Something else that struck me as funny that I don't know if you've ever seen these types of furniture. They're the wrought iron furniture that you see. A lot of people have had them for years and years, most of the time handed down from their grandparents. They're kind of a spring chair.
Okay.
We had, I don't know how many people come into our store looking for those specific chairs, which in my mind, I would have never thought that people were actually looking for those. People were moving more towards the cushion look or the sectionals, the recliner, all those things. So that was another thing we sourced. Is they're made in the USA by Meadowcraft. We were able to find them. They're in Wadley, Alabama. And so we brought that in this year because, it's kind of a nostalgic thing. People love them. But they last a long time, and they are wrought iron, and so they are extremely heavy. So it kind of helps with that whole Parker County wind issue. But again, listening to the customer they wanted that type of furniture. We wanted to make sure they had warranties, and they do, and they're well made. They stand behind their product, but it just wasn't something I initially planned on bringing in. But we did that just to have it for our customers.
Well, I know with the way the world's going right now, made in the USA is going to become more important than it ever has.
Yes.
Especially when you're a business like yours where you depend on bringing in products.
Yes.
So that's going to be very important. What's one of the things that an event or a sale or something you guys have coming up that you want to let some people know about maybe in advance?
Well, something we've started doing, and it just kind of happened whenever we opened our store. We had our grand opening, and we wanted to bring in some of the local small business friends that we had met to set up we have a patio area is what we call it, out on the patio, and our front lawn and in the store, to just kind of help us celebrate when we opened. And so they set up their booths. It was just kind of like a vendor market. And everyone loved that. They had a good time. We had a good time. And so we started doing those more often. We had a holiday gift market last year that was just absolutely bigger than I ever imagined it to be. And then our 2-year anniversary this year, we had over 40 vendors on site.
Oh, wow.
And it was huge. Just, I remember a moment where I stood at the back of the store and I could see out all sides of the building and there were just people everywhere. And I thought, wow, people really love this concept. And so, we didn't charge the vendors to be there. It was just, we were trying to help them be seen. They were helping us to celebrate. They were bringing us customers. We were bringing them customers. So out of that, and listening to those vendors and their local small businesses, bread makers, woodworkers, people that grow their own vegetables, raise eggs, all kinds of different businesses, we decided to start something called the Market at Town Creek.
Okay.
Because we are right next to Town Creek. That's one of the oldest areas in Weatherford. If you look back at the old plats of the city of Weatherford or the town of Weatherford, you can see Town Creek there, and that area, is called Town Creek. So we wanted to take something that's not Davis Porch and Patio, something to kind of help the community, something to get involved with the community and let them do things that they enjoy, because we have a little bit of extra space there and people tend to, enjoy that. We enjoy it. So next Saturday, actually, April 12th is our first market. And so we have a little space right behind the store. We're going to have vendors out front. We have a lemonade truck. Depending on the month, we'll have different, maybe ice cream trucks or different things. But we have vendors lined up for this Saturday, set up in the, it's kind of like an open air farmers market theme. We do have other shopping as well. So that's something new that's coming up. So we hope that it brings customers to our store as well, that they find us by coming there. But we also just enjoy doing something that, you can tell that the community and the general public love, and it helps those small businesses.
What I've learned about building businesses, and I got to give you a little bit of background on me. I've started lots of businesses, and I've got to sell lots of businesses, and that's just where I thrive, is building new companies, and it's my favorite thing to do. But the one thing that I've learned, and we're doing this podcast, is that if I can bring value to other people,
correct,
with no expectations of getting anything
correct,
in return, it always does return,
right,
tenfold, just
yes,
because you're trying to do good.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people look at that and they look at a business and they're like, well, how are you going to help me? And they overlook the value of helping other people first.
Correct.
So that's one of the things that, advice, if I could give, is, just go out and help somebody, make their day a little bit easier, bring some value to somebody else other than yourself, with no expectations of getting something back, and see how it really grows your business, your life, and your happiness.
Yep. Agree.
Carla, I'm so grateful that you took the time to come out today. I'll make sure to get this out right away.
Okay.
So people hear about your event before it's too late.
Saturday. Yeah.
So we'll get it turned around. This may be podcast number 1 instead of number 2, just because of the timeline. But we're so grateful here. If people want to find you, they want to come check out your store, where is it? Where can they find you online?
Okay. We're at 501 North Main. So we are just across the railroad tracks if you're going north out of Weatherford. Our good friends and neighbors are Peacock's Feed Store and Boutique. So if you go past that store across the railroad tracks, you'll see us right there on the left. We share a parking lot with Beefmaster Steakhouse. So there are things to do up on the north side of town. I think people forget about us up there. Not too far away is York Avenue. But so 501 North Main. We're also on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And we do have a website, davisporchandpatio.com.
Well, thank you, Carla, so much for
joining us.
And we'll be in the store again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.